Leave it, leave it. It's on now, it's recording. Leave it alone.
Shkayach.
So, okay. What happened to Vaykhel?
Make yourself a tea, just in case.
What happened to Vaykhel? Nobody hears me.
That's all.
I don't know. Here.
Vaykhel, yeah.
Wait a minute, my brother's here.
Who just said that?
He
Who said that?
higher
Oh
levels.
my gosh, you are weird, man.
So,
Well,
Funny thing to say you're weird about. He's right, but it's such a funny time to say it.
good. So we're turning to chapter Lamed Hey, 35. And we're going to be learning Posik Lamed. We'll be learning several soon, but that's kind of where we'll center ourselves.
Oh man, this is like Bitsal's Pasuk here.
Chapter 35, Posik Lamed.
Mamish about Bitzal.
Vayema Moshe el Bnei. So this is following after we've been told about all the details of how the Yidden gave all the donations. Each one gave money or whatever they had to the building of the Mishkan, and we're even told that the Mishkan had been more or less prepared. Everybody bought everything to Moshe, and he looked at it and he gave them his blessing and everything. And then it's written, Vayema Moshe el Bnei Yisrael, that Moshe said to the Jewish people, Ra'u, Karo Hashem b'Shem Betzalel ben Uri ben Chur Lamatei Yehuda. He said, listen, everybody should look and see Ra'u, that Hashem has called in the name of Betzalel, and he was Ben Uri, and he was a grandson of Chura. According to certain authorities, he was only 13 years old at this particular point. Yeah, Betzalel. What happened with Betzalel?
Yeah, it's about him.
He was very young at this point, but nonetheless, he's the one who was in charge, and to a certain extent, he made the majority of the Mishkan, Betzalel. Vayimale, so the Pasuk goes on to say that Hashem filled him, Yimale Oisoi, Hashem filled him up, Ruach Elokim. Hashem gave him a divine spirit, as he could, a divine spirit, a Ruach Elokim, B'chokma, B'sfuna, Uvadas, U'b'chol Malacha, and in all doing of all malachas. There were certain chachamim that they were good at certain inyanim, but he was in everything. Betzalel was a expert, a miyuchad shebimiyuchad in all the malachas. And the Pasuk now goes on to say what, you know, in making gold and silver and the choishas, and, you know, making things out of stone, and kol malachshavas, kol any well thought out or well planned. Machshava, he was it. And this was Vaykhel. So it comes along Targum Yonason over here, and the Targum Yonason ben Uziel, what you guys have heard of Yonason ben Uziel, yeah. Probably some of you have already been at his Zion. I would imagine. So the Targum Yonason ben Uziel begins that Hashem filled him with a spirit of Nevuah. Hashem put a spirit of Nevuah into him, and that's what made him so fitting to be the leader of all the Malachim. He was under Moshe Rabbeinu's guidance, but there were certain things that if we examine it carefully, there were certain things where Bezalel, almost as it were, outreached Moshe Rabbeinu. He knew certain things. The Gemara brings them a set of brachas, the famous discussion between them as to how to make the Mishkan. And in the end, Moshe said to Bezalel, your name is Bezalel because you are in the cell of Kel. You're in the shade of the Eibishter, because that's in effect what I heard. So ask yourself the amazing question, why did Moshe Rabbeinu change if that's what he heard? Why did he say something to him? So I'm going to leave you with that question. I'm not going into that right now. But just the same, but Bezalel had amazing and unbelievable insight. So ask yourself the question, I mean, the Mishkan was a very important building. That's the holiday. But why do we have to have a Novi? Why did he have to be full of a spirit of prophecy in order to make all these things, you know? And furthermore, we have to remember that Yidden only in the second year after they got out of Mitzrayim. And these people are being enslaved in Mitzrayim. All these 210 years is a long time. So how did all these Chachomim, how did they know all this unbelievable? This is very, very profound and amazing detailed knowledge that was put into building the Mishkan. So ask yourself the question, how did they know all this? So maybe because there's a certain Indian of what you might call Nevuah connected with this, and that's why they had to be very special people. And all the people who came to do the work are called Chakmei Lev. They're called Chakmei Lev. So ask yourself the question that a Chacham, he's a Chacham Moyach. You know, his brain is tremendous. What do you call him a Chacham Lev? Well, that seems to put his Chachma into his heart. And we're looking for somebody who's got Chachma. You know? We need somebody to do all these amazing Kalim and make all these unbelievable weaving and all the unbelievable Zachen. So why is he called a Chacham Lev? And secondly is, when all these guys came and they offered to do the work, so they're called in the Pasuk Chakmei Lev. But we don't find that Moshe Rabbeinu made a test. You know, he should have had a VAD, had a committee, of people who would test everybody to see if they knew, if they were fitting to do this sort of malacha. We don't find that. It's just written that all those who had this attribute of chokhmah leiv, so they came along and they started doing it. So that's sort of the question, how do we know right from the beginning that these people are fit for the work? So it's brought down in certain great maforshim that they did test them, but they didn't really test them. What they did was they just said, let's get started. And these people who were called chokhmah leiv, they made everything right from the beginning exactly how Moshe Rabbeinu heard from Hashem, which means that they sort of knew what to do without having to find out what to do. They, as it were, knew Malachatchila what they were up to. And they're called, therefore, chokhmah leiv. So ask yourself the question, why did we have to have everything done in that way? Why wasn't it done on the basis of your knowledge and your skill as a worker? But they're called chokhmah leiv, and they came Malachatchila, and the Targum Yonasan translates on the same thing when they get to those people that they came along to do the work. Also that they had a ruach nevuah. They had a spirit of prophecy. So that's sort of the question, what did they need a spirit of? A prophecy. Yeah, why did they need a spirit of prophecy in order to do all this? And then there's another interesting thing, which is brought down in reference to Bezalel. Apart from him being only about 13 years old, like I said, it's brought down that he is the son of Hur. I don't know if you guys remember. Come on, Levi, you have to hold yourself together, man.
Hold it up.
When you were over there, you were like a lion. When you come here, you go to sleep.
I don't know why.
It's no, really. So, does anybody know who Hur was? Or he was the son of Uri, and he was a father of Vaykhel. Okay, but anything special about him? It was mentioned in Rashi in last week's parasha.
You said who's Chur? You said who's Chur?
So Miriam's son.
Huh?
Miriam's son.
Very nice. He was Miriam's son.
Yeah, I just read it.
In other words, yeah, you looked it up and you saw he was Miriam's son. But there's something very special about Hur that he did, something very, very unusual that makes him very out of the ordinary. You don't know, though. You don't remember Rashi brought down. Well, it was a long parsha, so it's difficult to remember all the Rashis. But when the Yidden wanted Aaron to make the ego, the whole thing which happened, so it's written that Hur, he tried to stop them. He tried to interfere. And these guys were so mad with the lust for Avodah Zarah. Oh, he's doing the same thing. Really, I can't go on like that. I mean, we've got to decide.
Make some coffee.
Either we're going to learn, or we just all go to sleep. One or the other.
No, come on.
And maybe I'm putting guys to sleep. So anyway, Hur tried to interfere, and he tried to stop it. And what did they do to Hur? Yeah, they killed him on the spot. They killed Hur. They were so crazy about the Avodah Zarah business that they killed him. So Kumta said, who is Hur? The father of Bezalel. Well, I seem to drive him away. Every time I talk, he runs further away. So, yeah. That's my portion around here. So, Chura Kumtais was a person who had how would you describe the act of Chura in
Serious nefesh.
ordinary terminology?
Serious nefesh?
No, serious nefesh. Chura was a person who had real Mesiras Nefesh. So Bezalel, he was a Einikel from Chura. And there's an old saying in Yiddish which says that Mesiras Nefesh goes over with the blood.
Friends and family.
Yeah. That Mesiras Nefesh runs through the blood in the family. Yeah. If somebody had genuine Mesiras Nefesh, then that goes over. Yeah. And you can see it. If you study things carefully, then you can see it. Levi,
Yeah.
don't make conversations outside.
So, Chur, I know.
Other Mela, come to us. That Bezalel, he was a Einikel from somebody who had Emerson Mesiras Nefesh for Yiddishkeit, yeah, not just Stam Yiddishkeit, but for the whole basis and the whole Yisod of everything. He had Emerson Mesiras Nefesh. He was killed on the spot by all these people. Mela, it's not Stam that Bezalel was the one who built the whole Mishkan. And therefore, the Bali Atesafas, the Das Kenim and the Bali Atesafas, they bring down and they say that that's why Bezalel was like he was, because he was the Einikel of Chur. And he had Mesiras Nefesh in his blood. And whenever that lights up a person, it causes him to have a whole different view of things. And a whole different, he's a whole different Klali to what you might call divinity. So everybody's saying, well, you always tell a story, and you haven't told any stories today. So we're going to tell a story like this. But before I tell the story, I'm just going to ask a question. It's brought down from the Baal Shem Tov and from all the great teachers and leaders. It's brought down that everything what Hashem made, all the way up, sort of Lekutei Torah is brought down, that all the way up, Afila, into the Spheres Elyonos, even how they are before Atzilas, that everything is what we call Choyma V'Tzura. Do you know what, would you a bit like to suggest what Choyma V'Tzura is?
The materiality, it's hard to translate. Materiality and the shape.
Oh, Choyma is the materiality, what we might call the guf. And what is Tzura?
The shape.
Yeah, Tzura is a shape. But there's a more delicate touch in the world. Tzura, well, that means like the neshama, or like the real thing which makes that exist. The chomer itself doesn't exist. It has to have a neshama, as it were. Yeah.
Mahut.
Yeah, it has to have a nefesh. Of a mila, the neshama is called tzura. So everything has chomer v'tzura, even the spheres, everything. And to a certain extent, you might be able to say that that's the concept of guf v'nefesh. Ulai. It's possible to say that. So came along the Baal Shem Tov, and the Baal Shem Tov was once sitting at a what do you call it, a meeting of some nature, like a Suda perhaps. All of a sudden, some guy that everybody praised this guy, and they said he was a very great singer, you know, a beautiful singer. He was going to sing you know, a nice song and sing a beautiful song for everybody. So this singer got up and he started to sing. All of a sudden, the Baal Shem Tov showed a great amount of sorrow, you know, like tzar. So the one sitting alongside the Baal Shem Tov said, you're not supposed to react that way, Rabbi. You're always supposed to be happy with the niggin, you know. So the Baal Shem Tov says that he hears in his voice that unfortunately he's been over some very big Averas. yeah. And he's really a very big Russia, and he's mitzvah on the fact that he's a
What? He's tshuva.
So what does that mean? That in the voice, yeah, he heard already. So the voice, like Gabi, the Emerson Nefesh of the mensch, is already a choima, kemuvur. That the voice is made up of moisture and air and everything, but they're already shy to Gashmias. In the choima, he was able to see the tzura, and he experienced the tzura as the main thing. The tzura was the ikar. And therefore, there was another case where the Baal Shem Tov was once given a gift by a guy that came in when he was teaching his Talmudim, and he put this beautiful Kli on the table. So the Baal Shem Tov said he's very sorry to notice, and by the Magi that also happened. The Baal Shem Tov said that the guy who made that Kli was missing a leg. He didn't have one leg, was cut off altogether. And he was very mitzvah, you know. But the Kli was a beautiful Kli. So he said he saw in the ruchnias of the Kli exactly who made it, in a sense. Oh yeah, at Klika, the people were scared to stand in front of the Baal Shem Tov, yeah. And I know Chassidim. I mean, nowadays everybody's, you know, very, but when we used to go past the Rebbe, there was some Chassidim that they, you know, they were hesitant. They didn't know if they wanted. A lot of Chassidim would run to see the Rebbe, you know, they want to be noticed by the Rebbe. But there were a lot of Chassidim that they wouldn't, because you never know, you know, the Rebbe sees things, he sees the Tzura, and afterwards the Choyma. So you don't know, you know, what he's likely to notice. Oh. Poor Levi, he's really suffering at the moment, but we have to hope that, you know, he'll enjoy it in the end. Come to that I heard from some of the old Chassidim in Kfar Chabad. I'm going back now about 50 years ago or more. I heard from them that once upon a time, maybe I insulted him, that once upon a time, the Chassidim, when the Rebbe came in, they used to run and hide under the bench. In our generation, when the Rebbe comes in, everybody runs to see him, and they want the Rebbe to notice them, you know. Oh, but the Chassidim used to run and hide under the bench. Because the Rebbe, he sees the tzura, he doesn't see the choyma.
What changed? Why did it?
Because he's elevated. We'll soon come to that.
Why did it?
Well, that's the way we go. We wander around a bit and we come back to it. So we find another very fascinating thing here in the Parsha, that later on, when it's telling us about all the kelim after they were made, it's written that Moshe made the Orain. Now, first of all, it's mashma that Betzalel made the Orain. And then all of a sudden it says, Vayas Betzalel es Orain. In another place it's written that Moshe Rabbeinu made the Orain. In another place it's written that everybody made the Orain. So, you know, what's this? So the answer is that it depends what surah, you know, what neshama you saw in the Orain. Somebody who looked really panemiastic, he saw that everything comes from Moshe Rabbeinu. Cool, totally boy. Next step in the greatness is Betzalel. Yes. In other words, that they literally put into the Orain a whole thing of their panemias and their souls. And if you were able to see tzura, and not just choyma, that's what you saw. You know? But you have to be with a holy look. So ask yourself the question, how do you get that, how do you get that holy look? You know, how do you come to a point where you're able to see the tzura and not the chayma? So, in order to develop on that a little, we have to understand why were these people, why were they called Chokmei Lev? That's an interesting question. All the how do you call it, workers on the Mishkan, they're all called Chokmei Lev. And we see that the Targum Yonasan tells us that leaders like Vaykhel, they were full of a prophecy spirit, and that affected them in such a way that they had Ruach, Chokhmah, Bina, V'Das. So ask yourself the question, what would you consider a emes chacham? How would you describe a genuine wise man, a emes chacham? You wouldn't describe it? You wouldn't describe an emes chacham?
Someone who learns davar mitach davar.
Genuine chacham. How would you see him? How would you picture him? A genuine wise man, a chacham.
Wise guy.
In Torah.
Halim davar mitach davar.
He has a beard.
That every thought that comes to his mind is of
So it's a very easy answer. If you learn Hilchos Deyos in the Rambam, then the Rambam says that a chacham is nikar, he's recognizable in the way that he eats, in the way that he drinks, in the way that he walks in the street, in the way that he relates to other people, in the way that he does business, if he ever does business, the way he does it. That's how a chacham is nikar, and there's 10 things that the Rambam says over there. I didn't finish all the things, and then it's brought down by certain great, how do you call it, interpreters of the Rambam. They say that's connected, the Esesphiras, all sorts of amazing things. But isn't it amazing? L'chora, the Rambam should have said, a chacham is nikah. How brilliant, a real chacham only knows Gemara, with a little bit of Rashi. But I'm sorry, an ordinary chacham, but a real chacham, he knows face of earth, and he knows this, and he knows that, What does he say? That a chacham is nikah in all sorts of strange things like Ashmir. That's how you can recognize a chacham.
Derek Eretz?
Huh?
Derek Eretz?
Shnob Bishov?
Derek Eretz.
Derech Eretz, Derech Eretz.
Huh?
Derech Eretz. Same.
Tzorich Iyun?
Derech Eretz.
Derech Eretz. Ain't noch a name. Derech Eretz is a bit of it's another idea. But ain't noch a name, yeah. So come to us that the Rambam led me a little bit along a strange path. He tells me he's going to tell me who is a chacham, and then he tells me something else. He tells me that chacham is nikah in the way he acts at Gashmiya. Yeah? So, I want to tell you something very interesting. I've mentioned to you once or twice in these classes, there was a great Talmud of the Baal Shem Tov called Pinchas Koritzer. He was a Kohen, he was a very amazing guy, and he later didn't accept the Maggid. Therefore in Lubavitch he's not all that well known. He didn't become a Talmud of the Maggid, he remained sort of on his own. But he was a very great man. So anyway, the Reb Pinchas Koritzer, he says that somebody who's a emes chacham, somebody who's learnt wisdom in the emes way, then his wisdom is found in his hands, in his arms, his feet, everywhere. That's where his wisdom is found. And he says that a emes or chochom is somebody that his legs or his arms or his whatever, they just do automatically what they're supposed to do. He doesn't have to chase after them, but they just do. He's like an amazing sort of adequate machine that he doesn't have to control the machine the whole time. If he moves his hand, then the hand had a wisdom that told it that it had to move.